Congressional Black Caucus wants President Barack Obama to make job creation a top priority in the black community. But before we get to that, it's been a rough couple of weeks for New York politicians, with the state's first black governor, David Paterson, pulling out of the race for re-election, and Congressman Charlie Rangel vacating his position as chair of the House Ways and Means Committee due to an ongoing ethics investigation. So how are New York Democrats faring in this tumultuous political environment? We turn now to Congressman Gregory Meeks and Ed Towns of New York for some answers to this and other pressing matters. Gentlemen, thanks for being on the show.
Good being with you.
Glad to be here.
All right, being rough for New York these days between Congressman Rangel and Governor Paterson and Massa. What the heck he's talking about these days? But we've seen these stories in terms of Harlem being the black political center, really in the country, and some are saying it's shifting to Brooklyn, things along those lines. What do you make of the dynamics of Harlem's political power and its impact, frankly, nationally?
Well, nationally, of course, with Charlie Rangel being the chair of Ways and Means, he's still with the center and focus. But but things with time begins to change. I mean, Ed Towns now is a chair of a full committee. Benny Thompson's a chair of a full committee. Jim Clyburn is the whip. So when you talk about black politics, it is diversifying now like never before. It used to be when you only had 9 members, you only had a few areas. But now, because we are over 40 members and a number of them have seniority, they're chairing major committees. Over 18 members of the Congressional Black Caucus also chair subcommittees. It's just that we've got more power and it diversifies.
No doubt about it. And Charlie Rangel is the kind of guy that, whether he's chair Ways and Means or not, will be able to sort of make things happen. He just has a natural ability to sort of pull people together to get them to do things. So in as much as he's not going to be, at the present time, chair of the Ways and Means Committee, he will still have a tremendous amount of influence. And of course, you're right. I think that a lot of the power now is beginning to shift to Brooklyn, because Brooklyn is, the population is just so almost 2.6 million people in Brooklyn. And of course, that gives them a lot of power, a lot of clout. So yes, there's a shift, and of course, however, that doesn't mean that you just ignore areas or sections.
Let me ask you this here. You talk about that power and talk about those differences of opinion from African Americans. The meeting this week between the Black Caucus and the president. Look, we spoke to it earlier with our panel in terms of the tensions being there. The Black Caucus has made it perfectly clear in terms of what they want the president to focus on. He's made it clear he will not do anything specific in terms of a jobs bill for African Americans. But what happened in that meeting in terms of making it clear to the president that it's not just about health care? The African American unemployment rate continuing to go up. It is about jobs.
Well, as I said in the meeting, that I had a job fair. And, of course, the turnout was just unbelievable. I mean, people just kept coming. So finally, we got the police department involved in it. And they were coming. And the interesting thing about it is that they were coming with degrees. People who have done everything that we said do. Stay in school, of course, stay out of trouble. They've done all that. And they brought their degrees. Some of them had advanced degrees. They had more degrees there than a thermometer. I mean, they came in. And, of course, we need to find ways and methods to put these people to work. And we talked to the president about it. He understands that. And I think that through that process, we'll be able to do some things.
But, Congressman Meeks, look, let's just be honest. On the House Financial Services Committee, I mean, you guys made it clear. You shut it down, if you will, the previous bill, when black members held back their votes, frankly, picked up, what, $2-3 billion. And again, the White House, look, they were not happy with that, but you guys sent a signal. You had better pay attention to us and not always these blue dog Democrats.
We have our job to do. It's 2 different branches of government. He's the president of the United States. We represent 670,000 people. We've got to represent our folks, and we've got to do it in a manner that advocates on their behalf, even if it means going up against the president. It doesn't mean that we don't like the president. Doesn't mean that, but that's part of the process. We've got to do what we've got to do so that we can make sure that the individuals that we represent get what we believe they justly deserve. And the process means that at times you're going to butt heads with the president. That's just the way it is.
Congressman Towns, you said that the president understands that, but what specifically came out of that? Are we going to see a more robust economic plan? Are we going to see targeted initiatives to those most in need, African Americans?
I think what we did more than anything else reassured him that this job situation is real and that we need to work on it together. And I got the impression that he was prepared to do that. And let's face it, if we create enough jobs, that means people will be able to work. And of course, yes, we think it needs to be targeted. There's some areas in this country where the unemployment is much higher than others. I think he understands that. And my impression was that he's willing to work with us to try and deal with it. I left the meeting feeling very good about it.
Let me just tell you also, though, we've got to make sure that our communities are part of the new economy. When you talk about green jobs that he's talking about, we've got to make sure that we have some targeted training for our communities to get these green jobs as they're being created. When we're talking about infrastructure jobs, these are the two main pieces that are going to come out of legislation. We've got to make sure that the doors are open. Too often, in a lot of the building construction trades, there's none of our constituents that are part of that. We know these are going to be union jobs. So this is another fight that's going to be coming on.
Let me be clear, folks. Union jobs. And I don't want to hear the apprentice crap. Okay, I fought this issue in Chicago, and the problem I have that is these are the same unions that back this president, put the money in, depend upon black votes, but the same unions that keep us out.
And that's the fight. We've got to open the door to make sure that we're able to participate and be members of these unions.
Real quick, health care, the onus moving back and forth between the Senate and the House. Will this get done? This is the signature issue for the president.
Health care will pass. There's no question about it.
When?
I would say to you, within the next 2 weeks, healthcare will pass.
Absolutely. It's going to pass. It's going to pass, and it's going to pass, and we're going to be able to move on. And I think that politically, we're going to be in great shape come 2 months from now.
But will you agree that if this does not get done, this is the signature issue for this president, if he cannot lead Democrats...
that's why it's going to get done.
It's going to get done. And
it's going to get done.
Because the base would not be happy.
And more and more people now understand the fact that it's not a perfect bill. And that, let's face it, Social Security was not a perfect bill.
Civil rights wasn't a perfect bill.
Not only that, I mean, we can go on and on talking about Medicare was not. But we passed it, and then we continue to work on it. We still have work to do on Medicare. And the same thing with health care.
I've made the point very clearly, and that is Democrats could talk about the Republicans all they want to. Democrats have the votes in the House. They have the votes in the Senate. Do they have the political will to use those votes? That's the real issue that's left.
My answer is yes.
All right. And just in the Senate, that's why we got to do reconciliation, because though we do have the majority, with the Senate rules, that does give that does throw something,
But they got an 18-vote margin in the House, 59 votes. You only need 51. They can actually get it done.
Absolutely.
Gentlemen, first time on the show. Want to have you back.
Thank you.
Okay, we appreciate it, Congressman Meeks.